Here we go with video 9. We're going to talk about some of my favorite things now. If these things don't strike you, ask some questions. Maybe you didn't watch all the 8 videos. Maybe you didn't soak them in. These things should really start solving the Sudoku grid for you. I don't want to waste time recapping what we already know. We'll recap later. So, Revelation 3:10, right? We'll be spared from that hour of temptation, tries the whole earth. We talked about that. I think video 6, what the triangle of the earth is. We showed that tribulation is for the nation of Israel. And there will be no church. So let's back all that up, right? Okay. Listen. You may have heard that the church is talked about, it's either 19 or 22 times. I'm pretty sure it's 19 in the first 3 chapters of Revelation. The word church is used many times, and then it's not used at all again until Revelation 23, I think. Now check this out. You might have heard that before, but okay. Revelation 1:19. Let's read it because I don't want to say it wrong. John is told to write down the things which thou hast seen, and the things which are, and the things which shall be hereafter. Okay. The things which he has seen is Jesus as likened unto the Son of Man. It's been revealed to John here that, oh yeah, that's the lion, that's the warring Messiah that the nation of Israel's been waiting on, and they're going to get him. And they're going to be like, wow. And they're going to realize Antichrist, right? Maybe they realized that before or whatever. So, the things which are the 7 churches and the 7 letters written to those churches. Important stuff. But the things which shall be hereafter is chapters 4 through 22, futuristic prophecy about the stuff that's going to happen during Jacob's trouble. Those are the things I do believe that were sealed up in the book of Daniel. Jesus unleashes those seals. Wrath and judgment. Not the day of wrath. But just like there's the great tribulation, there's the day of wrath, the day of the Lord, battle at Armageddon, and there's wrath. That might come up later, but listen. He's told to write down the things which he has seen, the things which are, and the things which shall come hereafter. Okay. And the word church is mentioned 19 times in chapters 1 through 3. Okay. So, after that, when Revelation 4 starts, 144,000 Jews are talked about in Revelation 7. In 11, talk about the 2 Jewish witnesses, I do believe, Moses and Elijah. I think everybody pretty much agrees on that now. Revelation 12 talks about how Israel's fleeing, Same thing in Daniel with the prophecy. Now, is God working with Israel again? What's the deal? Where'd the church go? There's more, because Satan is pursuing that woman clothed in the sun, the moon, and the 12 stars like we talked about before. Now remember, that's from Joseph's dream in the book of Genesis. We know that that's a symbol for Israel. She also survives in the wilderness with Jesus' help for 1,260 days, right? First half of tribulation. Now, check this out. 1:19, he's told to write those things down. 1:20, Revelation chapter 1, verse 20 says that the 7 lampstands that he saw are the 7 churches. Okay, so 1 through 3, church is mentioned 19 times. Then in Revelation 4, verses 5 and 7, it's revealed. All those things. It keeps going, talking about all the Jewish stuff. And there's 7 lamps of fire burning at the throne in heaven. The churches, the lamps, they're in heaven in chapter 4. Right there, when the church is no longer talked about. you might have heard that, oh, it's a rapture-proof, the church hasn't been talked about. And then it's further weighted when you realize that John went up at 4:1 whenever come up here was said. Okay? Well, now why did they reveal to us this mystery that the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches? Just a couple chapters later in the same book show us that they're up in heaven. I mean, does God make mistakes like that? I mean, this brings us right back to the covenant replacement theology argument. Would God make the mistake of letting us be called the spiritual nation of Israel when there's still a nation of Israel and a bunch of Jews waiting on their Messiah and all this stuff? No, he wouldn't. Okay? He wouldn't let us make a mistake like that. He wouldn't trick us like that. And everything we've learned thus far shows us that his word is perfect. And if we respect it and we love it and we ask him to guide us to truth and let us use his wisdom, it's right there. More premillennial rapture proofs. Now, let's dig a little deeper, okay? Oh, here we go. So, tribulation equals divine wrath, and we can figure this out in Revelation 6, verses 16 and 17, Revelation 8, verse 18, and Revelation 3, verse 10. Backs up the idea that the tribulation is divine wrath, right? Now, here's the thing. A lot of people argue because the day of God's wrath, when he pours out the wine of his wrath into the cup of his indignation without mixture. A lot of people say God's wrath doesn't come until the end. Well, maybe, but think about it. Maybe there's still mixture because there's the 144,000 sealed up Jews, which we haven't talked about yet. Or that 1/3 remnant of Israel that survives. The stuff we talked about before in video 6. Now, think about this. Either way, God must play a role in this redemption because Revelation 5, verse 1, 7 sealed scroll. Verses 2 and 4, John's weeping. 5 and 6, Christ is qualified to open the scroll. 5-7, Christ takes the scroll. And verses 8 through 14 in chapter 5 is praised by various entities while he's breaking the seals on the scroll, releasing these judgments like we have. So Jesus is in heaven opening the seals while we have chapter 6, 1 and 2, the advent of the Antichrist, 3 and 4, war, 5 and 6, famine, 7 and 8, death, 9 and 11, martyrdoms, and 12 through 17, cosmic disturbances. Jesus is snapping seals on the scroll, releasing all those things. That's not Satan's wrath, and it is, but you understand that is divine wrath. We are spared from that. We're told, again, in 1 Thessalonians 1:10, 5:9, Romans 5:9, and in Revelation 3:10 that we're spared from that divine wrath. In Revelation 6:16, 17, Revelation 11 and 8, Revelation 11 verse 18, Revelation 15 verse 17, and Revelation 16 verse 19. So yeah, who can argue that the first seal judgments are they're not really God's wrath? It's just Satan's wrath or man's wrath or something like that. When Jesus is right there, John's weeping because nobody can snap the seals. He wants Israel to repent and come back. And like Paul said, if I could emulate something like that, them which are my flesh, might save some of them. Yeah. So let's leave it there. Again, that blew my mind when I learned this yesterday. I don't know how I didn't put it together. I knew all those other things, but of course, the 7 lampstands are burning at the foot of the throne, at the very beginning of Revelation chapter 4, right when the church stops being mentioned and all these other things start happening with the nation of Israel. There's too much context, there's too much foreshadow, there's too much prophecy, there's too much. And there's not one thing that refutes it. People say Matthew 24 is not about the rapture. Well, no, it's not. People say this thing about, 1 Thessalonians and, chapter 4 and how it's about the resurrection at the second coming. Well, we've already shown that's not the case. In fact, there's not a single thing so far that in any way when you actually love the Bible and pay attention, in any way refutes the premillennial rapture. Yet there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that support it. More coming. God bless. There's part 9.